I still remember the smell of lavender in my hair that morning. I had spent weeks growing it out, dreaming of how it would fall softly over my shoulders as I walked down the aisle. White dress hanging on the door, veil ready, heart full of butterflies. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My name is Emily, and for the last 2 years I had been madly in love with Daniel. He was everything I ever wanted. Kind, steady, successful, and so gentle with me. He made me feel safe in a way no one else ever had. My father never liked him. He said Daniel was too perfect, that something didn't feel right. But I thought it was just Dad being overprotective like always. I was in the bridal suite, smiling at my reflection, when the door burst open. My father stormed in, eyes wild, holding electric clippers in his hand. Before I could even scream, he grabbed me. "You're not marrying that man," he growled. The buzzing sound filled the room as he ran the clippers over my head. I fought, I cried, I begged, but he was stronger. Chunk after chunk of my long, beautiful hair fell to the floor. When he finally stepped back, I was bald. Completely bald. My scalp was stinging, my face red and swollen from crying. I looked like a broken doll. Guests were already arriving downstairs. My makeup was ruined. My dream was shattered. I sat on the floor in my wedding dress, surrounded by my own hair, feeling more humiliated and betrayed than I had ever felt in my entire life. I looked up at my father, voice shaking. "Why?" He only said, "One day you'll thank me." That's when the door opened again. Daniel stepped inside. He took one look at me, bald, destroyed, sobbing, and something in his eyes changed. He walked over, knelt in front of me, and gently wiped my tears. Then he leaned close to my ear and whispered the words that changed everything. "I have a plan." I stared at Daniel in complete shock. My head was bare, my wedding was in ruins, and he was calm. Too calm. He helped me to my feet, held my face in his hands and said, "Trust me, Emily. Just breathe. This isn't the end." My father laughed bitterly from the corner. "You think you can fix this? She's not walking out there looking like that. The wedding is off." But Daniel didn't argue with him. Instead, he turned to me and whispered, "Your father has been lying to you for years. I need you to be strong right now." Those words hit me harder than the clippers had. I demanded answers. That's when Daniel told me the truth he had been hiding. He worked for the CIA. Not just any agent. He had been investigating my father for the past 3 years. My legs almost gave out. My own father? The man who raised me? Daniel explained everything quietly while my father stood frozen, suddenly pale. My dad wasn't just a strict, old-fashioned businessman. He had been running a large financial fraud operation for over a decade, stealing from friends, family, and even charities. He had used my mother's death years ago as a cover to move dirty money. And when I fell in love with Daniel, Dad panicked. He knew Daniel was getting too close to the truth, so he tried to destroy the wedding and scare me away from him forever. The humiliation of shaving my head wasn't just anger. It was desperation. I felt sick. The man I trusted most in the world had betrayed me in the cruelest way possible. On the one day every girl dreams about. I looked at my father and saw a stranger. All the years of control, the guilt trips, the isolation from friends, it all made sense now. He wasn't protecting me. He was protecting himself. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "How could you do this to me?" My father tried to speak, tried to twist the story, but Daniel stopped him. "The house is surrounded. We've been waiting for today, because we knew you'd do something desperate. You just handed us the final evidence we needed." I was shaking. My perfect wedding day had turned into a nightmare. My hair was gone, my trust was destroyed, and the man I loved had been living a double life. I felt completely broken. But somewhere deep inside, beneath all the pain and shock, something else began to stir. Anger. Real anger. And strength I didn't know I had. Daniel squeezed my hand. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to. But if you're ready, we can end this today." I looked at my bald reflection in the mirror. I didn't recognize the woman staring back. But maybe she was stronger than the girl with long hair ever was. I nodded to Daniel. "Let's do it." What happened next felt like a movie. Federal agents moved in quietly. Guests were politely asked to leave with a story about a family emergency. My father tried to run, but it was too late. The evidence Daniel's team had gathered, combined with my father's own panicked actions that morning, was overwhelming. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back at me one last time. I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small in front of him. I stood tall, bald head held high, and said nothing. Sometimes silence is the loudest revenge. Daniel stayed with me through everything. He canceled the big ceremony, but arranged something small and private that same evening. Just us, a few close friends who knew the truth, and a beautiful garden behind the venue. I wore my wedding dress with no veil. No hair. Just me, raw, real, and finally free. When Daniel said, "I do," he looked at me like I was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. He kissed my forehead gently and whispered, "You are enough exactly like this." That night I cried again, but these were different tears. They were tears of release. In the weeks that followed, my father's empire crumbled. The truth came out, and so many people who had been hurt by him finally got justice. I changed my last name. I started therapy. I even learned to love my short hair. I kept it pixie short after it grew back a little. It reminded me every day that I survived the worst betrayal and came out stronger. Daniel eventually left field work. We built a quiet life together, one based on truth instead of secrets. And every time someone asks me how I met my husband, I smile and say, "It's a long story." If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most will hurt you the deepest. But your pain doesn't get the final word. You do. When someone tries to break you, especially on the day you're supposed to start your new life, use that moment to rise. Cut the ties. Reveal the truth. And walk forward, with or without hair, knowing you are worthy of real love. I lost my hair that day, but I found myself. And that was the greatest revenge of all.